Welcome to Dare to Speak, difficult conversations that can change everything. This is a place for you to bring those difficult conversations that you've been mulling over, that you've been thinking about while you've been walking around, doing the washing up or commuting to work. I'm Eve Stanway. I am a philosopher, psychotherapist of 25 years, divorce and breakup coach, and I help people in the moments where there's a difficult conversation they just don't know how to handle. This is a moment, your moment, to pause, reflect, and have a bit of breathing space to think about what matters to you and how to tackle those difficult moments. Using insight, reflection, case studies, and examples, I will guide you through those difficult conversations in a safe and constructive way. So let's begin. Hello and welcome to my latest episode of Dare to Speak, difficult conversations that change everything. Today, I am absolutely delighted to have another guest interview, and joining me is Washington Ali, who I met in February this year at an event, and we got talking about how you have conversations. And so I thought I really must get him and have a conversation on the podcast. So welcome, Washington.
Thank you so much for having me, Eve. I loved our preamble. I can't wait to get into it.
Excellent. So just let the listeners know a little bit about you, because I know you do have a story, but we are going to talk about conversations today. But if you just let them know a little bit about, introduce yourself, that would be amazing.
So I'm Washington Ali, and particularly in this environment that we're in of your podcast, I think the most important thing to know is that when I was younger, I struggled to have difficult conversations. I always felt that there was a pressure to perform. I always felt like there was a pressure for me to be the perfect child, the golden child, the athlete, the top of the class, the ladies' man, all of it. You put it in the list. I thought I had to be that, mainly because I didn't want to be told off. I didn't want to be wrong. I didn't want to be the bad guy. And that led me on an explorative journey, a strange one that made me question everything, because I had all of this pressure, had difficulties at home, and I was like, why are things this way? Why is money like this? Why am I always being told to be successful or have a certain type of career? Ultimately, all of those why questions left me at 18 running away from home, because I didn't know how to communicate those conversations or have those conversations. And even other people didn't know how to have those conversations with me as well, because I was asking questions that either people had forgotten about or didn't care about, because they were stuck. Well, not stuck, but they were having to live life, deal with the reality of it all. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think it's really important, actually. I've been working on my second book, which is How to Have Conversations with Young Adults, 16 to 28. And one of the things that I've done quite a lot of research about is the way that as youngsters, just like you're describing there, they're curious. They are curious to ask questions. And how those questions land with the adults around you, whether they land as cheekiness, not trying, being disruptive, not flowing the line, or something I see very often, which is, and I'm interested in your opinion on this, when a young person says, well, I'm not sure whether I want to do X, Y, and Z, instead of a grown-up or the adults around being able to say, that's really curious, Washington, tell me a little bit more about what you're thinking, it can often become, no, what you need to do is X, Y, and B. And you must do it, because otherwise the world is going to end and some bad things will happen and you'll waste your time and everything will look awful. So that ability to be curious and explore who you are and what you want to do as you become an adult becomes shut down. Is that something that...
That's exactly it. So my first question that I asked out loud was, what's the point of money? Why can't you just pass at everything? So the first person I told was my older brother. And my older brother I was probably 11, so he was 13. So he's looking at me like, dude, great question. I have no idea what to do with this question. And then then he told my mum, I was like, don't tell anyone this question. Like, it's really important. Then he told my mum came and spoke with me. And she really did her best to be consoling and considerate. Then she was just like, dude, sort it out. Like, we live in the real world. This is just the way things are. You've got to get on with it. And that is the response most people get, because the problem that we have in this society is that, well, look at me dramatize it. The problem that we have in this society is that everyone is genuinely busy. Everyone is genuinely under pressure right now, according to the cost of living. Even the heat wave, the heat just makes people so upset and groggy. I know for me, when it's winter, I'm at a lower, let's call it vibrational level than normal. And so there isn't space, there isn't a system, there isn't the thought of, let me slow down, being the responder, responder to this information that I'm receiving. And the horrible thing is the impact that happens, the impact on those people on the receiving end, the impact with the person with the question could be devastating. For me, I'm hard-headed, right? So if I enjoy something, if I'm curious about something, I'll pretend to you that I'm back to normal and everything's okay. Yeah. But at the back of my mind, I'm desperately pursuing that which has my attention. And for other people, when they get shut down in those ways, they limit themselves. And for me, it was, I live my life's an oxymoron. I was living myself, but still limiting myself, but still chasing the answers. So I felt false. I felt like I was living a lie. And I think I had the consciousness the conscientiousness to realize that, but I don't think a lot of people have that same awareness. They see themselves as bad, they see themselves as wrong, or other people wrong as well. And that leads to anger, frustration, and so on.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you say that. So it's like I talked about it in the first book, but I talk about it. It's a thing that now people are talking about. I think actually Joseph Campbell, studying anthropology, was talking about the masks that people wear, and I know Freud and Jung were. So what can happen is I'm asking a question, I start feeling ashamed about the fact that I have that question, or I just start feeling misunderstood and think that somehow I must have got some wrong end of the stick, or I just start feeling, well, I've got this question, but nobody's interested. So then performance has to come in, because in the end, as social creatures, we need to be able to fit society. I think one of the things that particularly becomes difficult is when parents reinforce that and start saying, actually, what you need to do is conform, and that can happen when you are different. If you are, markedly different, then it can be, look, you're different. Just keep it under wraps. Pretend that you're not. I certainly learned that as I've got older. I've realized that I am very, because of my upbringing, but also because of my psychology, I am very different. I look at the world differently. I see obstacles differently from a lot of people, and I think it really helps in my work. Sometimes it can be really difficult in my life because I will instinctively feel something, but I've got a massive time lag before my brain catches up sometimes with why it's a good idea. Because, and I recognize as a kid, I was working stuff out in isolation, and I really needed somebody to talk it through with. So that when I was saying, well, why could we just, be like that question of what's money for, or why do we need it? To being able to say, well, let's have a look at that then. Let's have a conversation about it. Actually, did you know that there's loads of people who were also having this conversation? Should we go and find some of them and go and see what they're saying about it? Sometimes they're inventing new currencies. Sometimes they're going into like bricks to swap things. Sometimes they're doing X, Y, and Z. And so what that would do is it it allows you to cogitate, and maybe at the end you go, actually, maybe money is a good idea because it's easy to carry around in your pocket, or go, oh, maybe we could have 16 different ways and we could just barter. We could have money. You get more possibilities is what I'm trying to say, if you've got that possibility to invent.
That's it.
Think.
That's it. I think that's the magic. Once you realize that the world that you've been living into has been somewhat of a lie. And I know I say that quite harshly. My life's a lie. How dare you? But for me, I think that's what it is. So I did something funny, and also just so typical me. I was playing around with the word belief and confidence and how they relate to each other and so on and so forth. And what I ended up doing was I broke down belief into 3 words, which was be, lie, and if.
Mm.
The be and the lie has had me at contention my entire life. Why would there be a lie in a word that is brimming with such possibility right in the middle of it? And I've despised it ever since, until I hit that realization. And then when I looked at the F, I was like, oh, I'm a creative, whatever. And let's just add an I there, and we've got a full word, 3 words. But what it symbolizes for me is where we limit ourselves, and kind of a system that I'm still developing right now is that to figure out our lies, or where we're pretending, or where we are masking even, because where our lies live is in the future for most people, is in the possibility for most people. And if our lies are out there in the future, who are being right now in the present is contaminated. It's limited. Should I say contaminated? It's not the first word. And how, so my whole world has been like, okay, every time I've had a major revelation, it's essentially that what I believed is not true, or what I believed isn't 100% accurate. And that 1%, 3%, 5% divergence from the truth has kept me from being where I need to go. And once I discovered the truth about learning how to have difficult conversations, so for everyone listening, I ran away from home, started making music, had the time of my life, came back home, had a really, really powerful conversation with my mum, where she essentially made me choose between a pair of Air Forces and a tattered out pair of Vans. The Vans represented who I was. My Air Forces represented what life could be. And she made me pick between the two. Now, only I picked the Vans, I picked the Air Forces, everyone, but only after I picked those Vans did I realize that whole entire journey was, I went there because I felt suppressed. I felt like I had no self-expression, didn't know how to communicate. And most importantly, I wasn't brave enough to communicate. And what I learned there, and then further on, what I learned there was that actually how I'm seeing my mum, how I'm seeing my family is on this godlike frame. So my lie was, my family is the be all and end all of my entire existence.
Yeah.
Now, in somewhat, not somewhat, I still very much hold them to a high regard, everyone, by the way. But what it is that I had to have a conversation around boundaries with my mum. I was like, Mum, I've been pretending that you are the ruler of my life. I've been pretending, and the impact of me pretending that has been that I'm scared of you.
Yeah.
I'm scared to explore, even though it's very contradictory to what you share to me. You're like, explore, go try things out, this, that, the other.
It's very interesting that you say that. So, you know, the lies that we tell ourselves because, and you're right, they kind of form our beliefs, and they are our strategies because we're working it out. I can't tell you the number of times that I've worked with parents and spoken to parents and said, your son or your daughter is 13 years old. That means that they've been alive for 13 years. That means that they're still working it out. They're working out their own body, they're working out their own mind, they're working out their own voice, they're working out their own accent, they're working out all sorts of other stuff. They're not even full adult yet. Their body is going to keep changing for another, men don't really hit their full height, really, I don't think, till they're about 20 or 21 or 22. And their bodies are going to carry on changing all the way through. So it's so easy. And I'm going to kind of bring it back to the conversation. When people are talking to you when you were 12, your language will have sounded complete. You would have sounded like somebody who knew what you were talking about, even though your understanding of the complexity of words, concepts, and ideas was just 12 years old worth of experience. It was no more than that. Even if you'd read thousands of books, it would have still only been what a 12-year-old could understand and comprehend. But if we look at you at 15 or we look at you at 18 and we think, hey, this is the way that he is. I know you. You're just like Uncle Joe. You're exactly the same as me or your dad or whoever it is, which is what kids hear a lot of, isn't it? I bet you heard that growing up. Yeah. You're exactly the same as whoever it was that you're exactly the same of. Then it does put young adults and kids at such a disadvantage, because there isn't actually any space to grow or evolve in that space. Because I'm your parent, I already know who you are. I know who you look like. I know everything that you've done. I know everything that you think. And I've already categorized you as being like this person here, or being good, bad, lazy, hardworking, really hype achiever, a low achiever, having a good memory, bad memory, good at writing, bad at writing, good at art, bad at art, good, footballer or basketball player or whatever it is I've decided that you are. So you're already deeply categorized. So I agree with you in terms of that belief. I think adding in the extent to which you've already received thousands of labels that you're trying to coexist under.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I find, do you have more? Sorry.
Well, no. So I just want to say that. So when we're talking about that as a lie, it is a lie, but where it comes from is it's internal and it's well as external, because I think children, I don't know, when I got a border collie dog, right, everybody said, oh my God, border collies are so intelligent, they need so much exercise and that. And I think we literally grow children in our homes. They're the most complicated and weird and profoundly, extraordinary organisms. So yeah, I'm adding, because the thing is about you and I is both of us have thought about this, but we haven't actually spoken very much. So you're coming from where you are. I'm coming from where I am. And what I really want actually all the listeners to hear is we are working it out. We are working this out. You with your framework, me with my framework, other people with their framework, because we're trying to actually ask these questions that we can ask as adults now, because basically, Wash, nobody can stop us, because and we can have a podcast and we can talk about this stuff and we can write about it, which you couldn't do at 15, could you?
No, you could. I couldn't. I was trying to figure out how to. Oh, nice. Don't.
Same here, man. Same here. Yeah. So it's really interesting. The way that you're talking about it is you're trying to construct and deconstruct, aren't you? And what I like about your approach, and I kind of feel very good about it, is you're doing it with a fondness and a respect for your family and the difficulties that they will have faced around you. You don't sound like you're doing it with blame or criticism. I don't know if this is right, but you sound like you're approaching your family dynamic with a recognition that mistakes were made. That be right? Do you think that's right?
Yeah, 100%. I think what I have been lucky to expose, I've been really lucky to be exposed to so many different dynamics ever since I was young. And one of those dynamics, or one of those framings that I've always kept, is that everyone is genuinely trying to do their best at the best of their knowledge. And I also acknowledge that when I ran away from home, I caused a system to break down. And that system, I caused a system to break down. I caused heartache in that system. As much as I was going to fulfill what I call my own personal legend, I I I broke something down that involved four other human beings that was still two of them that were still growing up, one of them that was shouldering responsibility that they didn't have to if I was still there. So it's also an appreciation of when I came back home, that I didn't have difficult conversations forced down my throat. I was given time and presence to just process and assimilate and get back to so-called normal, you know?
Sorry to interrupt you. Can I just ask you about that? Can you explain that? Can you explain how? I'm just going to assume this was your mother primarily. Yeah. What do you remember, or what did you notice? I'm really interested in this. So what did you notice about her approach? Because she does sound like a forthright woman, your mum, with the capacity to be forthright and thoughtful and intentional. So when you say that, when you said she gave you time to process, what did she do that allowed that to happen? What did she do?
She communicated. So to give it to go deeper into that. So when I went back home, she sat myself and my siblings down. We're in the living room and she said, Wash is home now. And something along the lines of, don't treat your brother differently. This is still your brother. He's going through his own challenges right now. And it's going to be difficult for all of us, including him. And that was the foundation. The groundwork was, which again seeps in my work, is just awareness. It's presence.
Sorry to interrupt again. So that sounds like what your mother offered was leadership.
Yes, that's it.
She led the situation. She took up that mantle of leadership in a system where there were younglings, I'll call you all, your younger people, there's a need for guidance and leadership without being authoritarian, dictatorial, or demanding of anything. She just stepped into leadership.
That's it.
Without imposition. Would you say that's true?
That is 100% true. So that was step one. Step two was allow time to pass. Let me just get on with what I wanted to do, essentially, to enough that I wasn't disrespecting the household. Smaller private conversations would happen. She would catch me around the house and she would just probe, ask me, am I okay? How I perceived what she was doing was trying to get me to open up so that I can release whatever burden that I was experiencing.
Okay, so I'm going to translate it that other way around. So what she was doing is she was being emotionally regulated. However, your mother must have felt for her son to leave, go and do all of these things and then come back. And, anybody who's a parent knows that there will be a welter of fears, anxieties, doubts, curiosity, and whole 9 yards, including respect and authority, all the stuff that people talk about. But what your mother did is she offered you emotional regulation by regulating things and keeping it calm, which means that your nervous system, which will have been explosive in some ways, had a chance to, what did they say? Bruce Lee said, you can't clear a muddy pond with your hand. You have to let it settle. You have to be patient. He also called, I do like a bit Bruce Lee, did martial arts growing up, he called patience concentrated strength. So your mother exerted concentrated strength in being patient, which then allows the muddy water of your experience to settle down enough for you to get some clarity. And then the next thing I'm going to pick up, I hope don't mind me doing it this way, but is what you said about she had private conversations with you, which meant that she respected your individuality and your process by keeping it private, not making it all a matter for let's have a family intervention and let's all talk about Washington and what he did and didn't do. And there must have been pressure for that to happen. I'm going to suggest in any family, everybody likes to pitch in with an opinion. I'm sure it's no different.
Yeah, no, like it really isn't. It really isn't. Yeah.
Sorry, I know I interrupted you, but the reason why I did is because it's illustrative for people who are listening to kind of understand. I'm just, if you like, tagging some of these points because if you can remember why patience and emotional regulation when your young adult is doing something that is just so terrifying and upsetting and anxious making, but that patience, that leadership, that privacy,
it's beautiful. I'm enjoying it. It's the breakdown is beautiful. Yeah.
Sorry, I know I interrupted.
Where would you like to go from here? That's okay.
Yeah. So I think it's I really appreciate you sharing it. I think when I know that there will be parents watching this, and the biggest fear of parents very often, other than beyond the kind of death and illness of their children, is they'll not get an education. They will run away and decide that they want to be social media stars or pop stars. Yeah, or they will somehow get broken in the process. They will waste their youth not getting educated to a tedious job. I don't know why that's a good idea, but anyway. And that they will somehow go off the rails and then not be able to make, fit what the school system says is success. So your mum was dealing with some of the really serious stuff, and you must have been involved with some interesting people who were much, much older than you and highly influential and not necessarily always the kind of person that a mother wants their young son hanging around with. So it would have hit a lot of the markers of what a lot of parents are fearful of.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I think, wow, when you break it down like that, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know from what you said when I spoke to you before, you didn't come back from it kind of wonderfully, like you came back from it a little bit. I'm not going to say broken, but you were definitely affected. You were affected by the experience in not necessarily an immediately positive way.
No.
Say it that way.
I don't mind sharing this all. I think what came out from that, I was a shell of myself. So I've always been quite boisterous, very confident, very quick-witted. I came back from that experience like I'd lost a part of myself. It was a cognitive dissonance of, I've just betrayed my own personal legend and everything I've done is a waste of time, and to throw in a mix of, what's the word? Like paranoia, thinking that the government's going to come and get me and things like that, And so when I immediately came back home, I was paralyzed. I couldn't make a decision. I couldn't make a choice. I couldn't trust the people around me who were telling me they love me. So it was a grueling experience, and I was smoking weed as well, so I couldn't sleep. I was very sleep deprived because I'd stopped, and with the withdrawal symptoms of like years of smoking is just insane. So I think when I look back at that time, what was just so magical about that time is that I was given a brand new, to use a Bruce Lee example, I was given a dojo to reshape my thoughts, to reshape who I was as a
Yeah.
person. And that foundation was based off possibility. It was
Mm.
based off, look, what is going to happen? No one knows what's going to happen next,
Mm.
but for the love of God, please try something.
Yeah.
You know, and my mum being who she is, she's very forthcoming. So once like she sees a glimmer of, as soon as there's a
Yeah.
bit of sunlight, it's game over. As
Yeah.
soon as
Yeah.
I was starting to come around, we went
Mm.
to, I went to started doing city and guilds actually when I was still
Okay.
in that paralyzed state.
Yeah.
She was like, you need to get back into education because I dropped out of college, did city and guilds, walking there every single day, gave me a lot of time to think. I had to start interacting with strangers
Yeah.
again. Absolutely hated it, but there was this lovely woman that worked there that greeted me with an absolute smile, very
Oh.
considerate, didn't do too much. And I went in there, I think 2, 3 times a week, and it was
Mm.
absolutely fantastic. I don't even think I completed it. This is what's so funny.
Yeah.
I don't think I completed it. And then my mom was like, "Yeah, you need to start going to property conferences." So I got that.
Yeah.
I got exposure therapy at a small scale, right?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Started meeting new people, getting my
Mm.
brain working again, doing my English and maths again. Started having to communicate with people as well, and also like respectfully, I was seeing the side of the world that I didn't like.
Yeah.
I felt
Yeah.
like I felt like I was being belittled, and not
Mm.
by the world.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I was like, this isn't where I'm supposed to be. Uh, or not where I'm supposed to be. This isn't where I want to be.
Yeah.
And this screams depression. It screams, again, I'm branching off somewhere else. I had an uncle that came to stay with us one time, and I looked at his life and I was like, wow, this example of a life is my biggest like nightmare of what a life could end up
Mm.
being. And being those four walls terrified me. So fast forward, start going to the conferences, and again, education, learning something, having a bit of hope is what bolstered the next level.
Yeah.
And I found that in property. And from there, the more knowledge I understood about how buy to let works, rent to rent works, and having
Mm.
more conversations with people who are older than me, learning at the same time,
Yeah. Yeah.
rebuilt that confidence, that step. I wouldn't even call it confidence. I'd actually say I became settled in myself again. You know, I wasn't as scared. Like I wasn't like asking, begging to have conversations with people. I wasn't that person yet.
No.
I was just more like, oh, okay, like I kind of get what this thing is again. I understand
Yeah.
what's happening in life again. And then from there, my older brother was going into his second year at uni, and my mom
Mm.
said, "You need to get out of South End, go stay with your older brother." So we got a house share with a bunch of other uni
Yeah.
students. Me and my older brother were in the same house, and then from there, I was like, I was back into the real world. But
Yeah.
one caveat was, I was like, I don't want any friends.
Mm.
I didn't feel safe around like
Yeah.
people my
Yeah.
age because I was like, wow, I was so susceptible that time. What about this
Yeah.
time? Yeah. So
Yeah.
then I started doing an access course. I didn't have GCSEs because I didn't complete my
Yeah.
city
Yeah.
guilds.
Yeah.
So I did an access course 1 year and again, re-assimilate re-figure.
Yeah.
I'm jumping, but in the time I was at home or
Mm.
in that room in
Yeah.
Canterbury, I was figuring out who does Washington want to be? And I wasn't
Yeah.
consciously doing it. It was more that I needed answers. I was like, my whole entire reality had been shattered. What I
Yeah.
thought I was done for. You're told go to school. You're told don't do this.
Yeah.
You're told do that. And I somehow revived again.
So,
Um, mm,
sorry to.
it's okay.
So I think that again, that's really important because what you're talking about is, and you're actually talking about what you were talking about at the beginning of that, this idea that there's just one way, and that if you don't do that one way, then you basically you've just shot your chance. You've blown your chance, and everything else is going to be bad or less good or less vibrant, less colorful, less beneficial, less fun, just less of
Mm,
everything. And that, when you're going back to your kind of belief, that is, I think, a very modern day lie, that if you get it wrong, it's over. And yet we also know failure is feedback. So and those don't work together. Confidence means with trust in yourself. Yeah, that's what it means. That's what it means for me. You might define it differently because but I
Just
see
to
it.
jump in, for me, it's
Yeah.
self-trust in action. So we're in the exact same.
Yeah, self-trust in action, but it's all about confidence is about that trust. I learned that really young because of my experiences. I then forgot it because I listened to too many other people who told me that I was mad and, not as good as I think I'm not as good as I thought I was, actually. So I lessened it. But having that trust in yourself, you've rebuilt that trust. And I kind of just want to highlight that one of the best ways of building that trust is through education. It is through learning and knowledge. Like, I think that that's something that people miss when they're looking at confidence, that they think that somehow you're going to magically stand in the front of the mirror and manifest that you're going to be confident. The real way is learning stuff and then realizing that you've learned stuff. Right? So lots of people know loads of stuff and they've got no confidence because they don't know that they know stuff. But if you know what I mean? All the people, I was like that for a long time. I was like, well, I really do what I'm doing. And then I went, hold on, you just calm down. Yes, you can. You know loads of stuff. Do you know what made me know what loads of stuff is? When I moved house last year and I had to package up all my books, all the books I've got. I think I filled a Luton van with books that I own.
Wow.
I have got so many books. If you come to my house, I've got books all over the place. I've got books everywhere. And then when I was packaging them all into boxes and unpackaging them, lugging the boxes around and trying to work out, because I don't have enough bookshelves. I need bookshelves. I've not got bookshelves. But what I realized is I've read all these books. I've read them all. So many of them I've read several times over. So I just wanted to kind of cut in there, but just for people listening, because if you are listening to this and you're learning and you're reading books and you're listening to this and you're reaching out and you're doing that learning thing, unbeknownst to you, you're building your confidence, as long as you realize that's what you're doing. Not if you're doing it and then not realizing it, but if you're doing it and you're realizing it, that's what you're doing, isn't it?
That's exactly it.
Yeah, I'm just aware that we've been talking for a good old time. Okay. And I'm just letting you know. And I'm really interested in what you're saying. And what I'm thinking, actually, Wash, is I'm going to need to bring you back for like the second half. The second half of your story. But I'm hoping that everybody who's been listening understands that what we are talking about here is that you're talking about your personal development, you're talking about your evolution to getting into that thinking space where you started out being a thinker and not trying to ask questions and then realizing that your 13-year-old brother maybe didn't have the answers, to moving towards seeking and looking for answers. And I think that's where you are now, isn't it? I would describe you as a thinker of thoughts and a seeker of answers and knowledge and knowing. Would you say that that's true?
100%. That's all that consumes every spare waking moment. Last year it was every moment, but like I've transitioned roles ever so slightly. Yeah, I think finding answers is honestly, it's reassuring.
Yeah.
And it's magical when other people discover their own answers as well, and being able to facilitate that process. It's the only thing in my life that I could just genuinely do. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And the reason why that relates to these difficult conversations, because you've mentioned difficult conversations several times, and this is a podcast about it, is because first of all, your mother sounds like a legend at a difficult conversation in particular. And I want to really say this, not because she sat you down and had a good talking to or forced the answers out of you, but what she did, which was have the capacity to spread the difficult conversation with you over a longer period of time. So instead of kind of having that pressurized need to get all the answers straight away, and even when you're talking about going to the property thing and the education and moving out and starting to talk to people and stuff, what you're talking about is spreading, slowing down the difficult conversation enough to be able to allow the answers to happen. Would you say that that's true? Is that
That's so,
saying that
it's so beautifully put. It's so beautifully put. Honestly, I've just got more to say on that because that's the current stage of life I'm in right now. I slowed everything down.
Say it. Go on. We're going to go 5 more minutes more. So say what I'm really interested in your reflections on that.
I think as anyone who's going after something that they deeply care about, you're told speed is the answer, and speed and execution. Last year I did the confidence tour. It was unbelievably successful, and my mind was, this year I've got to do 2 days. This year I've got to do this, that, the other, this. Otherwise, I won't have the same quote unquote notoriety, or I'll lose the impact, or my business will close down. All the dramatic things. And I stopped myself because I was lost. You know, I was lost because the lie that I was living was it came from, I want my work to be out there in the world, to essentially this grandiose feeling of success, or this is the only way to do it, or I'm struggling to communicate that bit, but it came from this false sense of being grandiose about what it was that I was creating. And then I sat down and I was looking for so many different alternative ways of like moving ahead. I considered getting a coach. I considered doing this, that, the other. I did get a coach, and I realized throughout the coaching process that, hey, do you know what? It's not coaching that I need. It's just time to sit with my thoughts and just to stop. Actually, there was no purpose to it. It's just to stop, just to be curious about my boring, mundane existence, and find joy and excitement in that again, the same way I did when I had to go to college and do all of these things again, because that's where, like, to actually really live life is what I'm trying to say. It's most like I wasn't living life. I was in the pursuit of a goal. I was in the pursuit of success. I was in this pursuit of like, everyone's got to know about my methodologies because they're so sick. Rather than like, am I in service to life itself? And as tacky as that sounds, it's only there do I actually experience this exhilarating joy and amount of energy that just seeps through my work, seeps through the conversations that we can have, that I have. So so it's really beautiful. That led me to reflect on that's where I'm at right now.
So it's a really good thought. A lot of people are looking for mindfulness. They're looking for a way of slowing down. There are, the idea of, it is a scarcity mindset, this idea that we're going to run out of time. I remember when I was 50 thinking, well, that's it. I've got less time ahead of me, so I should have done it sooner, and there's no point. And then I literally had to have a conversation with myself, which I do regularly when I say something to myself that I can't tolerate. But a lot of the drive that we're having when we're having difficult conversations is the impetus. First of all, not to see people being lazy, because laziness, I always think resting is a verb. We rest, it means it's to rest. Resting isn't doing nothing. Resting is doing something. It's called resting. It's a verb, to rest, as a thing. So if you're sitting there doing nothing, as somebody else might describe it, first of all, nobody knows what's happening internally. And also in that rest is when growth happens. Children grow when they're asleep. Children's brains develop when they're asleep. That's why teenagers sleep so long, because there's a lot of changes happening in the human brain. So I will often say to people when they're talking to me about difficult conversations, can we structure it as 30 conversations, not one? So the drive to complete, the drive to succeed, the drive to get it done so that I can get on to the next thing. And I get caught up in this. My daughter said to me the other day, honestly, the wisdom of 19-year-olds, I think it's because I say stuff, but she goes in. And I said, I'm really disappointed I didn't get everything done today. And she just turned around to me and went, well, it sounds to me like you gave yourself too much to do then. Yeah, you're completely right about that. But what a beautiful reframe to, well, you just gave yourself too much to do. It isn't that you didn't get it all done. You gave yourself more to do than you could do. That is the shift from I'm the victim of time and my to-do list to I'm the boss of my time and my to-do list. I'm in charge of how much stuff I give myself to do. So let's take control of it and let's think about it that way. It's a beautiful reframe. So I think, Wash, that I will have to have you back on to talk a little bit more, because it's been a real joy talking to you today, because a lot of the interviews that we have, and they're all really good because they're talking about difficult conversations and things that people have. But what you have spoken about today is that reflective process, is that growth process, and really specifically that acknowledgement of difference, acknowledgement of what might be perceived as errors, what might be perceived as failure. And it isn't, it's just part of development and evolution, and it's part of adaptability. And
Yes.
honestly, to evolve, we have to be able to adapt. Not being able to adapt it wasn't good for the dinosaurs, you know what I mean? So you've displayed enormous creative adaptability, which I'm delighted about. Can I just ask, if anybody did want to come and work with you or do anything like that, is there ways they can follow you? Is there if they just want to follow you for what you're doing? Because to be honest, I'm going to say to everybody, just follow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think literally hear what you have to say.
If you want to hear what I have to say, head over to my Instagram, becomealive.co.uk. If you're ultra nosy,
sorry, you said it really quickly.
Oh, sorry. Washington. I think I said Become Alive. And then if you want to be involved with my work or want to know what I'm doing next, head to becomealive.co.uk. You're going to be met with a landing page to drop your email. It's a wait list. That's all it is for my next confidence tour, which will probably be 2027. However, if you'd like to read, hop onto my Facebook. It's Washington Ali, and I write, for some people, frustratingly long paragraphs about my thoughts. My most recent post is, what did I say? Something along the lines of the responsibility you have as a leader, or what you say. Oh, I can't remember it. It was so good though.
Go have a look at it on Facebook. Go be curious. Listeners, go search for Washington on Facebook if you're on Facebook. But what I'm going to say really crucially is, if you are out there and you're finding that some of your difficult conversations that you're having in life are about the way you're thinking and the ideas that you have, there are other people. I just want to say that there are other people out there who are asking questions and being curious. And I think because of some of the negative influences that are out there, it's almost like asking questions and being curious about how you think and feel is almost considered like a bit of a damning sin at the moment. But actually, the more we can ask and be curious, the more we drive through some of our perhaps self-destructive mindsets and beliefs to the green grass on the other side, where we start to work out who we are. Because it's not always, we don't want to stop. All of us have bizarre thoughts growing up. All of us have strange ideas. All of us, that's part of it. but it's getting through, it's continuing so that you get to the other side and you find out who you are and what you think and what you believe. Would you say that?
I love that. I would 100% agree. I've got nothing else to add to that. That was perfect.
Okay, well, I'm just going to say thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your candor today and your sharing your story. And, you know, these conversations that we have on this are about beginning to have those spaces be open. So I want to say thank you so much for engaging and being willing to do it.
It's been my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.